Okay, why don't we get going? Welcome, everybody. This is the March meeting of the Ulster County Transportation Council's Technical Committee. We'll start off with a call to order. So I'll call this meeting to order. I'm going to go around and ask everybody, can we call names off, Brian? Just by participant?
You want me to do that, Brian?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, we have Ed Pine, Sandra Jobson, Kristen Wilson, Amy McKenzie, Andrew Emmerich, Herb Litz, Lizzie Phillip, Mike Baden, and Vernon Benjamin. Did I miss anyone?
Okay. Is there any citizens on? Call for citizens' comments?
Let's see. This is Martin Hull from WSP, just sitting in on the meeting.
Thank you, Martin.
You're welcome.
So the approval of the October 27th, 2020 Technical Committee meeting summary. Do I have a motion to approve for discussion purposes?
Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mike. Do I have a second?
Ed Pine.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? In the interest of time, any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion's passed. Thank you. Communications and announcements, Brian?
Yeah, I have just a few communications that have gone out from the Transportation Council recently. You may have seen the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area opened up a call for transit project proposals using our unallocated funding savings, which is accumulated to approximately $15 million. It's open to designated recipients within the TMA planning area, which includes all of our public transit providers. Anyone who is not a designated recipient needs to get essentially a permission from a designated recipient to act as a sponsor for their application. In the past, Adirondack Trailways has applied for these funds, and not within our county, but in other counties, human service transportation providers have applied for these funds as well. We're not anticipating receiving any of those types of applications this year, given the circumstances of transit during the pandemic, but that call is out there, and we do anticipate to receive some applications from our public transit provider here in Ulster County for those funds.
UCAT, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
from UCAT. So that is the TMA call for transit projects.
Any questions on that? Okay, Brian.
Another correspondence, I did receive the approval letter from the New York State DOT, Federal Highway Administration, and Federal Transit Administration of our 2021 Unified Planning Work Program. So that UPWP, as it was approved by the Policy Committee last month, it has been accepted by state and federal offices. And just as a point of information, the current Unified Planning Work Program, which has roughly 8 days left on it in the state fiscal year, did require a minor routine end of year adjustment in the amount of $3,317.50 to add one final invoice to a project that was not included. It was the Kingston Traffic Signal Warrant Analysis Project, which was largely completed during the previous year. So we just needed to add that in order to close out the project and make sure that it was included on the state fiscal year program. That's a minor adjustment and does not need council action. That's all the correspondence I have.
Thank you, Brian. Anything from the council members they want to share? Okay. New business. Item A, draft UCTC resolution 2021-04, amendment to the UCTC STRIP federal fiscal year 2020-2024 transportation improvement program to add a new New York State DOT project PIN number 801847 as shown in attachment 1. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
So moved.
Thank you, Kristen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. I have a motion and a second. Discussion, Brian?
Yes, this is a new project. Therefore, any addition to the Transportation Improvement Program requires approval by Tech and Policy and 15-day public comment period. We are very pleased to see the addition of this project to our Transportation Improvement Program going back about 3 or 4 years. Ulster County Public Works and the Planning Department met with the Superintendent of Schools at Onteora to discuss some real concerns they had regarding student safety on the Route 28 corridor in Onteora. And a number of different issues were discussed. And David Corrigan, our resident NISDOT engineer, was in attendance as well. And so today we see the addition of something that will be, I think, a major improvement and benefit to the Onteora area. At this point, I'd like to maybe defer to New York State DOT if they have any further information to add on the project.
Hi, Brian, it's Sandra. Yeah, this project really came out of partnership with, I think it was New York City DEP is doing some roadway improvements along Route 28 and some bridge replacements and also doing some trail work. And I think between the meeting that you were just talking about and this project being done by DEP, I think the thought was, I think it was initially DEP was the one that wanted to bring this shared use path to connect the hamlet better to the trail system. And it was determined that it was just much easier for state DOT to build this section that was along the state highway. And we're actually, at this point in time, we're actually wrapping up our environmental review. Apparently, we have significant right-of-way out there, which is going to make constructing this project a lot faster and easier.
That's great, Sandra. And I know that there's one member of the Ulster County DPW that's been talking about this for a while. Andrew, do you want to say something?
No, I mean, I just know that the DEP project keeps on getting delayed, so I'm not sure when that's actually going in, but I know their intention is to have a 5 to 10 foot separate shared use path on that bridge, which I'm guessing DOT is going to connect to. So I do think it's a great thing for that community.
And it connects the school to the trail system so their cross-country staff can get there and everything else. So that's pretty good. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra.
Dennis,
You're welcome.
where are the project limits? Where does it go to and from? Just sort of curious.
Sandra, do you have those details?
From what I recall, because I just literally probably like an hour ago looked at the location map. You know where the high school is, or school in Boyceville? Yeah, the path conceptually as it's shown right now would run along the west side of Route 28, basically from the vicinity of where the school is. I think it could potentially go maybe a little bit further west, but then it would go to Route 28A intersection with Route 28. So I think that's still something that has to be better defined during detailed design, is the most logical, termini. But I guess you could say the project starts at the intersection of Route 28 and 28A and then heads west.
And Sandra, right now, presently, there is a mid-block crosswalk there, which is less than ideal, certainly, which is one of the reasons why the improvement, I'm sure, is taking place. It essentially leads into some parking lots and a drainage ditch. Do you know if the department will be exploring any sort of hybrid beacon in the area as well as part of that crosswalk?
I'm not entirely sure, but that is definitely something that I can pass along to the project manager. Absolutely. I would hope that that's part of, what they're going to be looking at in more detail during final design, and I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Kristen. Any other questions?
Yeah, Dennis,
Who's, just to identify yourself.
Herb Litz.
Hi, Herb. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize the voice.
No problem. Just a point of interest, that bridge job for DEP is let, and is due to start construction probably within a couple of weeks.
That's great news. That's really great news. Yeah, I heard it was let because we're talking about changes to the parking for the trail system itself there. So I did hear it was going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, and someone may want to reach out to the contractor and DEP when they have their startup meeting, just to let them know what's going on. And then if there's any adjustments to their project to meet the state project, they can be done, in a matter of course, rather than having to go back and redo work.
Thanks, Herb.
Yeah, this is Sandra again. Yeah, I think those conversations are already had by Mike Schaefer, our regional design engineer. But we will definitely confirm that along with the idea of the RFB along Route 28.
Thanks, Sandra. Anything else? Anything else relative to the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor? I'm sorry. Any opposed? I apologize. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Thank you.
So we'll release that for public comment at this point. It should be in next week's paper.
Thank you, Brian. Item number 6, other old business project updates. Brian?
I can run through some project updates very quickly. Our long-range transportation plan reformatting is nearly complete. We received the final draft from our consultants last week and have our final comments to them. We'll be meeting tomorrow. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to present that to our members. We may also be considering passing a new resolution to make that the official long-range plan, but we'll figure out what the best course of action is based on our operating procedures on how to proceed in that regard. Speaking of our operating procedures, it's been several years, I think at least 5 years since we've revisited for potential revision, the operating procedures. There are some areas that I would like to improve and add some clarification regarding our procedures, particularly with regard to public participation and also participation of our voting members through remote meetings. We obviously have been working under the governor's orders to allow remote meetings for public meetings, but there's nothing that really states in our operating procedures how to handle that. And I suspect that order may be rescinded at some point during this calendar year if things go favorably in regard to the pandemic. So other MPOs are also revisiting their operating procedures given those issues. So we may do the same. I'm going to begin to prepare a laundry list of potential changes to those operating procedures, and I'll share them with our technical committee for input and review. We presently have an RFP for transportation resiliency, looking at it's a resiliency and risk assessment analysis. That RFP is open, but the deadline, this is Friday, and we've received quite a bit of interest from potential proposers, engineering firms. So we are hoping to have a pretty robust response and to receive quite a few proposals of interest for that project. I've already mentioned our unified planning work programs. Those are, also the Ulster and Delaware Trail Corridor in Shandaken. We've been doing a trail feasibility study for that trail corridor, looking at the section essentially from Big Indian headed toward Bel Air. We've had Barton and LaJudas assisting us with that effort, And we have the final draft report is essentially going through final revisions with a technical advisory committee. That should be available for public review, I'm hoping next week, at which point we're going to schedule a public meeting to present the findings and solicit public input. So please be on the lookout for that invitation. I'm looking forward to getting that underway. At this point, we were hoping to try to have some sort of hybrid in-person meeting, given that the weather is changing, that we were hoping that maybe up at Bel Air, we could have something open to the public in person under cover of one of the ski lodges or something to that effect. But we think it's a little ambitious given where we're at as a community, as a county, and as a state. And that at this point in time, it's probably makes a lot more prudent sense if we just continue to focus on having remote meetings. So we will very likely be scheduling a remote public meeting, public information meeting for the UND study sometime in April or May.
Yeah, I would add that that doesn't preclude sometime in the future, particularly towards the end of summer, bringing the stakeholders together up there to see the trail and to understand what was proposed and maybe take a tour of the trail, et cetera, et cetera. So, we wanted to make sure that we could finish the study up, and then as we start talking to funders about various funding and start thinking about what preliminary design looks like, perhaps another meeting at the site would be appropriate, and we'll have those discussions as we move along.
We have successfully completed the UCAT feasibility study for a potential expanded maintenance facility. That project was completed by Pacero Associates about 2 weeks ago and is available on the project website. And we will be exploring opportunities for implementing the findings of that project as well. And one last item for me, and then I'll pass over to Dave to talk about our crash analysis. Bridge New York, that call for projects is currently open. I hope that municipalities will be applying if they have bridges or bridge needs.
So can I stop you? Is anyone on the call, any municipalities thinking about applying? DPW, you folks are going to apply?
Yeah, Dennis, we're applying for a bridge and a culvert.
You know where, Andrew? Of course.
One culvert in Schwangung and the bridge in Hardenberg.
Okay.
And we're also working with our two applicants for the Ulster County off-system bridge funds, which include Rochester and Ulster County DPW, to find the best way forward for the use of those funds at this time.
Yeah, Brian and Dennis, it's Mike Maiden. I can, the town board is going to be talking about that. Spoken with the consultant that we were working with, and we're likely going to move forward with the Bridge New York application.
Great, and of course,
pending board approval to initiate a contract with them, but I suspect it will happen.
Great.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and we've been in touch, obviously,
Yep.
those issues too.
Anyone else? Any culverts out there? Any more bridges out there?
Dennis, I did see also town of Marbletown. I saw in the local newspaper, the Bluestone, they were discussing a culvert.
Okay.
Dennis, this is Fred. I believe we're moving forward with that also.
Thank you, Fred.
David, any updates for the Ulster County safety analysis?
Yeah, the safety analysis is continuing on. We've seen a template for the deep dive analysis that we're going to be doing at 10 locations throughout Ulster County. We're still finalizing those top 10 locations, but we've pretty much pinned down the top 1 or 2. And now it's just getting the rest of those ones in line. We're really trying to make sure that where we're doing this deep dive has a diverse geographic and type of crash that's seen at each location.
So one of the first, Sandra, you should be aware of this. One of the first areas that we looked at and one of the highest crash locations in the county is the U-turn on 4455 going up to Minnewaska. So the consultants are going to be looking at that as one of their first deep dives. It was the #1 location countywide. Just be aware of that. So we'll be reaching out to DPW to participate in that, so you can understand what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis, Mike Baden, just a quick question on that. Since the planning project was approved for that 4455 corridor, how will those two overlap? Will they share information back and forth, or how will that work?
Yes. How's that?
Okay, perfect.
Those are all the project updates I have. We're also working on at least 3 new scopes of work that we hope to have out for RFP this spring, which include rail safety issues in the city of Kingston, a corridor management plan for Route 9W in the town of Ulster in the commercial area out there. Also, trail wayfinding are at the top of our list, and we're actively working on all of those scopes of work right now. That's all I have.
Any other old business from the council members?
Dennis,
go ahead.
I was going to say there is one thing I wanted to make people, the council, aware of. Is FHWA is currently soliciting feedback on the changes to the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, TCD. They have a pretty substantial amount of changes that are being proposed. We're currently working at the MPO Association, working on a draft primer kind of on highlighting some of the major changes. But if you do have an interest in those traffic control devices and the implications and things that, limitations from that, they suggest that you go through it and take a look. But hopefully at a future meeting, we will be presenting on those key changes to let our members know.
Thank you, Dave. Anything else? Sandra, I have one question. Any update on the Wirt Street Bridge?
No, I have nothing, but I can check in for you guys.
Appreciate it, Sandra. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Next meeting, the UCTC Policy Committee meeting is scheduled for April 27th.
Mark your calendars. Any other business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Mike Baden.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. I have motion to second. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Everybody have a great, enjoy the day. It's supposed to be 66 out there today.
Wonderful.
Everybody be safe, stay healthy.
Enjoy.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks all. Be well.